Welcome to Resilient Love Podcast.
Join hosts Quinton and Breonna as they discuss tips on love, life, and
business.
Let's get into this next episode. Hey, what's up, everybody?
Hey, what's up, everybody?
This is Breonna.
And this is Quinton.
And you are listening to Resilient Love Podcast. We are here to discuss with you all just some tips about love, life, and marriage. So before we get into the episode, how are you doing, Quinton?
I'm good. I'm real good.
What is something that happened to you this week? Like, what's the new thing?
The new thing is setting boundaries and setting priorities.
Setting boundaries, setting priorities. Okay, what was the thing that made you do that?
I noticed that I was not feeling like I was feeling accomplished at the end of the day. I always felt like there was just so much I left on the table. So those are the two methods that I was like, I have to really zone in and set those boundaries on things that I can't do at this current time for other people. And then I have to prioritize what I need to do for me and my household.
True. So that is a really good point that you made. And another thing I wanted to share is, for me, what I learned this week is it is okay to make time for you. Like, it is okay to put the phone down, put the computer down, and make time for you. And then, of course, make time for your significant other.
Yes, that's definitely a part about prioritizing me as well as the household, including you.
Exactly. So on this week, everybody, we want you to make sure that you are setting boundaries, that you are making time for yourself, and that you are making time for your significant other. And that's going to lead us into our topic.
Today, I want to talk about a life asset tool and a financial tool. Yes, life insurance. Life insurance can be one of the most beneficial tools you can have in your tool belt. It helps your family not be in financial distress in your absence. And it also can be used as a financial tool. So today, go ahead and check out Policy Genius to go ahead and add this as an asset to your life and a tool to be in your tool belt for when times shift that you are prepared.
On today, there's a time where it comes with relationships where sometimes you do and the other spouse
don't.
So today's topic is about effective communication. When it comes to our relationships, we want to have effective communication. And that comes from setting those boundaries, making time for yourself, and making time for your spouse. What we've noticed in our time married, which July will make 4 years. And so as what we've noticed in this time is that we have to really make time for each other, set boundaries, and
make our priorities. Make the list for our priorities and stick to it.
Yeah, so as we get into this episode, we want to give you guys some tips because we actually wrote a book. We wrote a book called Confront the Conflict and Settle the Matter. You can find that book on Amazon. It's an ebook. Go ahead, check it out. It's also on our website, Resilient Love Podcast. So if you go to those two different resources or locations, you can find the book. So in that book, we were discussing some of those tips that we learned. But I want to start off with a quote. And this quote says, "If I get married, I want to be very married." Audrey Hepburn said that quote. And I did not get married to just
have a title.
Yes, I got married because of the purpose in which Quinton and I have on our lives. I got married because I truly love my husband. And I got married because it is a union of friendship, but also a partnership that we both have a firm foundation in Christ and just believe that God wanted our two lives to come together and work in unison for Him and His kingdom. So that is why I got married, and that's why I want to be very married. What about you?
I got married because number one, I love you, of course. But number two, I grew up not seeing marriage. So I was always kind of curious, like how I knew I wanted my dynamic, my family dynamic to be different than what I grew up with. I wanted two parents in the household because as I was growing up, that's what I desired. So I knew um, my life required that. And of course, God is of God. So I just think when God is in the midst, there is no risk.
All right, can we repeat that? When God is in the midst,
Yes,
there is no risk.
there is no risk.
There's no risk. And so, some of you guys may have just met us. You know, sometimes we assume
Yes,
that everybody knows who they're listening to.
right.
So, just to give you guys a brief background, you know, Quinn and I, we met in middle school.
Yes, you heard it right. Middle school.
We met in middle school, and then we dated a year in high school. And then after graduation, we went our separate ways. And then in 2014, a chain of events happened, and we were reintroduced, and the love story developed from there. So, our foundation is in Christ, our foundation is in friendship, and our foundation is in communication because our relationship actually started up virtually.
Yes.
It was an app called Glide. Y'all know about Glide? Y'all remember Glide? If you don't remember Glide, go ahead to your app store right now, open it up, and find Glide. Let me see if I can find it real quick.
And while she's finding it, I'll explain what Glide is. So Glide is the somewhat dinosaur of what FaceTime is today. What happened was you had to wait for the message. When you message somebody, you had to wait for them to send back the message of their video chat. So in real time now, we got FaceTime where we're talking back and forth. But in that time, you had to wait for communication.
If you're watching online, you watching us on YouTube, you can see right there, that is Glide. It is still live and active. We got to give a shout out to Glide. Glide, if you ever hear this, see this, sponsor us. Okay, so that's how we started, right? Communication had to be effective. It had to be on point, right? We had to really discuss some of our likes and dislikes because, again, we reconnected at about 3 years after we graduated high school, 3.5 years after we graduated high school. And so things change, people change, ideas change. And so we had to figure that out.
And the way you communicate changes. So the way we communicated in middle school, the way we communicated in high school is not the same way we communicated when we reconnected. So I think that's a key. We change over time. So there's no such thing as per se perfect communication. It's just development and growing.
Exactly. A development and growing. And that's what we did in our relationship. We developed and we grew. And you know, one of the ways that we did that is through resources, right? We did it through reading books, utilizing different TV shows and kind of having an open discussion or open dialogue about how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And so as we took those principles into our courtship, into our dating time, we then got counseling.
Yes, we had premarital counseling.
And so through counseling, we were able to utilize this book. It's a book that we're going to have a link in the description for you guys to go get this book from Amazon, but it's called Before You Say I Do. We also have an episode that you guys can go back and listen to called Before You Say I Do. So listen, we correlating, baby. It's connecting. But listen, go ahead and get the book from Amazon, Before You Say I Do. This was a great workbook.
Yes.
Basically a tool that we use to help build our communication prior to walking down the aisle. And that's something that we want you guys to really take heed to, because prior to I do, you got to figure out what you don't.
What you don't, and I think also why.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just really evaluating what's the issue. It could be as simple as background or upbringing. It can be simple things that just need answers, simple questions that need answers.
Right, and that's a good point. Simple questions that need answers. And so, in this episode, we are going to be breaking down some of the steps that you guys can utilize to identify
Yes.
and figure out what the conflict is. So, the very first thing is to identify the problem. And based on marriage.com, a survey states that communication problems is on the top of the list of 25 reasons why marriages have problems. So when you think about, it's literally on a list.
Yeah.
Communication problems is like the top reasons why people say they don't. we are advocating for people to say I do, but communication is a reason why people say they don't. We actually, had a moment where we said,
Right. And that's another thing. Even when you say you do, just being realistic that they in the beginning you may feel like, why did I get married?
come on.
But it's those times that as long as you're willing to be resilient and work through it, find the tools and the resources to help you be successful in your marriage.
Yeah, and one of those tools is sharing your side.
Yes.
Like being able to just say, listen, Quinton, what you said yesterday or what happened 30 seconds before we press record.
Yes. I think, and particularly in the the husband role,
Mhm.
we tend not to share our feelings. We tend not to be vocal about issues or things, and it can cause an issue because it comes out as an outburst.
Mm.
So that is something I think I learned very early on is being vocal. Not, I was so concerned that I would maybe hurt Brianna's feelings or, um, we typically happy wife, happy life. Well, that goes both ways.
Yeah. Happy spouse, happy house.
There you go.
We need to have a equilibrium here.
Yes.
We both need to communicate. We both need to hear each other out. And I think that sharing your side is an important factor to effective communication and how you really confront the conflict and settle the matter. So when you share your side, right, you figure out what the issue is, you actually can come up with a solution.
Yes.
Because it's like at this point, I now know what I said offended Quinton or what Quinton did I personally just did not like. And so figuring that out, we can make better decisions. What is a situation that came up that you feel like because we shared, we're better?
Mm. Wow.
Because we shared, we're better.
I would say expectations.
Mm.
Because of my upbringing, it was a bit different, non-traditional. I grew up the later part of my life, teen years, with my dad. So he was very easygoing as far as stipulations. So, you know, Bree would ask me something simple like, where you at? What you doing? Not in a way like,
His mom.
right. But in a way, just like, are you okay? Are you good? And at first I felt like I don't have to tell you anything. I don't have to tell you where I'm at. I don't have to. So I was just, I was really out there, but I had to get matured, become a matured husband
Mm.
and understand. And we created balance through that.
Yeah. And even for me, a situation, he said expectations. One thing for me was patience. I expected patience, expectation kind of go hand in hand, but because Quinton had a certain flow, I had to be patient in the process of him learning. And as a spouse, as a significant other, you have to be patient through the process. There will come a moment in the relationship. It doesn't matter if you are 1 month in or 1 year or 10. There will come a moment where this is new for us and we really don't know how to navigate this. This is like uncharted territory for us.
And in marriage, I don't think no test has a specific date.
This is not like school. There's no, you're going to get tested on Friday. No, baby, you're going to get tested right now.
But if you always keep God as your instructor,
come on,
you always find a way to pass your test. That's going back to solutions.
Yes. One of your solutions is Christ. And one of the things that Christ tells us is to lean not to our own understanding, but in all of our ways acknowledge him and he should direct our paths. And so we want God to direct our marriage, direct our conversations, direct how we flow with one another. And when you truly lean not to what you understand or what you have knowledge of or how you were raised, you don't lean on that. You lean into God and he's going to help to gird you up. We have a verse in our home. It actually comes from Ephesians that a 3-stranded cord is not easily broken. And people wonder, well, what is the third leg? What's the third entity? And that's Christ.
Yes.
He's the first entity. The husband and wife are second and third, but the positioning of the cord is that when it's braided together, that was actually a ceremonial expression.
Yes.
Where we braided the rope. And we did that to signify our acknowledgement of Christ is the thread that's going to help us through the storms.
Yes.
It's the thread that's going to help us when we feel like falling apart.
And more so, it's going to be the thread that help us. When you think about the thread, you think about a rope. You think about how you got to swing from one side to the other side. And you really have to trust God on that rope.
You got to. And this is what our relationships, we say relationships goals. If you have not listened to Mike Pye's sermon on relationship goals, we challenge you to listen to that series because, excuse me, everyone, he really shows us through the text, through the scriptures of how God is a part of your relationship goals. We see the social media trends, but God is a part of our trend. We're a trendsetter through Christ because he's our thread. In order for something to really have sustainability, it has to first have a foundation. And our foundation of our marriage is Christ. The foundation of communication is Christ. And so if you want to have a better flow with your spouse, significant other, you have to first assess where's our starting point. How was your communication at home? Did you have strong communicators as parents? We have to get back to the root issue. See, a lot of times we are dealing with the after effects or the residue and not the issue. Let me say that again. We're dealing with residue, but not the issue.
Right.
Deal with the issue. The residue might be, loud, rambunctious responses, but the root is I didn't have the best communicators growing up. So that's where that patience comes in. That's where that understanding comes in. The Bible says what? Lean not to your own understanding. So we talked to you guys about identifying the problem. We talked to you guys about coming up with solutions and then sharing your side. But we also want you to put it into practice.
Yes. Nothing really matters without application. To read the word and not apply the word, it doesn't really have a reference. It doesn't have a sustainable place to work.
Right. We want to be not just hearers, but doers. Yeah. And so we are doing life together, right? We're hearing each other out. We're working through it and we are doing this thing.
And there's better days than challenging days. That you know, the good outweigh the bad.
Sure do. Yes, yes. And so there's another quote that I want to share from Martin Luther. And it says, "There is no more lovely, friendly, and charming relationship, communion, or company than a good marriage." And I'm telling you, when you have a good marriage, it starts with a good foundation. And so if you guys are looking for a good foundation and a good resource, tell them about it, Q.
So our resource is going to be which one we gonna go with first?
The 5 steps.
The 5 steps.
So we're going to do a 5-step guide to confront the conflict and settle the matter. You guys can actually get that in our link in our show notes. We want you guys to actually take heed to the steps. And you guys, when you go through the steps, if you are looking for a support through those steps, we're going to be having a webinar to really help you through those steps. And in that webinar, you all will be able to really take a deeper dive with the worksheet provided and get a deeper understanding of how to communicate with your spouse and rebuild. We want you to unlearn to relearn so that you can create better habits in your home and in your life.
Right. And essentially what this does is no matter what your background is, your family dynamic or upbringing, this is going to help you place new tools in your toolbox so that your marriage can be successful. No matter what your parents' marriage was, no matter whether you grew up in a single home, it's a fresh start with new tools.
Yeah. So we want you guys to make sure that you confront the conflict and you settle the matter. And we want you to do that through Resilient Love. Quinton and I are certified life and business coaches, and we are here to help to build you up. We want to provide you with resources, and we want to provide you with this podcast.
Yes.
And in this podcast, we want to be 3 things. We want to be brief, we want to be clear, and we want you to be
resilient.
So if you enjoyed this episode, make sure that you go to Apple Podcasts, or you can go ahead and subscribe to us on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review. Let everybody know that you were listening to Resilient Love. Anything else, love?
That's it. Just stay resilient.
Stay resilient. All right. Until next episode. Bye.
Bye. Thank you to all listeners and subscribers. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube.
Leave us a 5-star review on Apple so that we can continue sharing Resilient Love. Thanks for listening.